guys hear me? Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Yeah, that was a pretty good intro. I wrote it myself. All right, so let me see. Customer success. Show of hands, how many of you have been doing customer success or been involved in customer success for more than 6 months? Awesome. For more than a year? 2 years? 10 years? All right, cool. All right. So what I want to talk about is something that, on my way here, I stopped in a couple other places in Europe, and I ran into some interesting situations, and I kind of changed what I wanted to talk about today to make sure that you guys are looking at things the right way, okay? Things that are going to help you be more successful. And ultimately what this comes down to is, in customer success, we have a positioning problem. What is customer success? When we talk to people about customer success, what do they think we're talking about? We know what we're talking about, right? Of course we do. But what do they think when we say customer success? I did a presentation not that long ago at an event, and I knew it was going to be for startups and investors, and this was in North America, and I decided not to even mention customer success because I knew if I said customer success, everybody would have their own idea of what it was, and they would go to that place, and they would not hear anything else I said. So I just talked about growth. I talked about getting customers to stay longer, buy more, and advocate for us. And it was interesting how well that was received. But I was very sure that had I titled it even Customer Success, half the people wouldn't have shown up. And then if I talked about customer success, well, everybody that was there would have had their own ideas. So I want to make sure that you guys are doing things right. I have heard what's on this slide more in the last year than I ever thought I would. I have seen companies rip out their customer success management operation and literally say these words: customer success doesn't work. What? That's insane. And then you start digging around, you just start talking, then you figure out, well, what you were doing didn't work. But you weren't doing customer success. I don't know what you were doing, but it wasn't customer success. And that's kind of the problem, right? We have a lot of companies doing customer success, but they're not actually doing anything that truly matters, anything that truly adds value to the business. So we're going to make sure we don't fall into that trap. There's a reason that customer success is not taken seriously. Well, there's a reason you're not given the budgets or the resources that you think you deserve. There's a reason that you are not truly empowered to actually make the customer successful. And there's a reason what you do is not looked at as a legitimate business function. And the problem is, some of that's our own fault. Some of that's our own fault. Show of hands. How many of you have ever been told that what you do sounds kind of fluffy or something like that? Show of hands. Big. Raise your hands up. This is a safe space. I want to see this. Okay. That's more than half of you. And the other half of you are lying. This is true. And if the other half that didn't raise your hand, if that's never happened to you, that's awesome. You probably positioned things the right way. But what I have to say doesn't mean, what I have to say is something you should still pay attention to, because there may be ways to make things even better for you, okay? So, one of the reasons people don't take customer success seriously is because, well, the way it's positioned. And the way it's positioned can be things like account management 2.0. So much of what is out there, sort of traditional customer success management, probably some of the stuff you'll hear today, comes from account management. The concept of a book of business, directly from account management. Account management was simply where we would treat customers like an account. Are they paying their bills? Are they buying more? Oh, and it doesn't matter whether they're successful or not, just are they buying more? And can we shove more product and service on them or not? And of course, are they renewing? But it didn't take into consideration anything to do with their success. As soon as you try to make the customer successful, Well, all that account management way of looking at things it doesn't work. That's why you see companies hitting a wall at some point when they try to have like a certain amount of revenue per CSM. That old adage, 2 million ARR per CSM is total bullshit. I don't know I know where it came from. I know who said it. But I don't know where it actually came from in reality, if it was true customer success. Maybe it came from account management style of customer success, and that's the problem. So you have a lot of companies out there actually just renaming their customer success management organizations, or they're renaming their account management teams to customer success management, and that's a huge problem. The other positioning issue is churn busting. Now, if you guys are in any way familiar with me, you would see that I don't really talk about churn. And a couple of months ago, I wrote a blog post that was like literally going to be the last words I ever say about churn, although I mentioned it a lot, so it wasn't actually the last words on churn. But that post was essentially, look, churn's boring. Solve the underlying issues that cause churn. You don't have churn anymore. And if customer success is just about churn busting, and of course the initial catalyst might still be churn, come to customer success, but if the only thing you're focused on is churn, you're always going to have churn to focus on. You have to solve the underlying issues that cause churn. And then if you go even further than churn busting, and it's just about saving customers. Like literally a customer calls in or emails in or whatever and wants to cancel, and you intervene and keep them from canceling. Is that customer success? No. That's just doing what you got to do to keep a customer who is already failing from taking their money and going somewhere else. Now, if you do that, and sometimes, look, reality, sometimes we have to do that. But that's not customer success, and we just need to get clear on that. If you want to apply customer success to that whole saving customers idea, then once you've saved them, just make sure they're back on track. Because if you don't get them back on track to being successful, you're just prolonging the inevitable. They're going to churn later. You saved them for now. They're going to churn later, only they're going to be extra pissed off at you because you didn't actually do anything. You just wasted their time. So we got to get out of the churn busting, got to get out of the the saving customers, and then we also have to get out of this idea of being the buzzkill for sales. That's one of the biggest positioning issues. We're all just here to tell sales to stop doing their job. Man, and then that just fuels that us versus them thing. We got to get out of that. And then, of course, this is a big one for me that I always like to just throw this out there so people will just get mad at me. But customer success is not about customer happiness. Now, look, I'm not a psycho. I would like for the people around me to be emotionally happy. But, that doesn't always happen, and that's actually okay. My job today is not to get up here and entertain you. My job today is to make you more successful, to give you the tools that you need to go out and be successful in your job. If I was going to entertain you, I would just I would dance for you or something. And then I'm not a very good dancer. You would just laugh at me, not with me, but you'd be entertained. Now you see there were a couple of giggles there. That's nice. But that's not my job. So if you're not happy with the things that I say, I don't really care. If it causes you to start thinking, and you take that and you go back to your job, and it makes you more successful, then I have done my job. We have to get away from this idea that customer success is just about happiness and delight. Separate success from happiness. Otherwise, you literally could operationalize around happiness and go down this really weird path where we're not making the customer successful. But this is just one of the big misconceptions that we have. Now, another show of hands, how many of you know this book? I'm not going to say how many of you have read the book, but how many of you know about it? I'll tell you what, I'm partially responsible for some of that positioning stuff. This book certainly didn't help. This book is about 5 years old, published about 4 years ago, I guess, but started and finished somewhere between 4 and 5 years ago. It was sort of outdated then. A lot of the stuff that I talk about today, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to share with you, didn't make it into the book. I never, ever want to tell anyone who still tweets me and says, Lincoln, just got your book. I'm like, yay, that's great. Not going to try and step on their enthusiasm, but I certainly hope they're not trying to build a customer success management operation around a book that was incomplete when it was published and is outdated by now. It's a great history book, tells you how we got here, but it is not a book to build anything off of today. We have to look at customer success in the way it's evolved. But a lot of people are going to get up here today and talk about things that probably are very true from that book, from the perspective of that book. More assumptions that you guys need to overcome, that you need to push back on. Customer success is just a department. You'll note in a minute, my definitions of customer success will really help you overcome this. But customer success is not just a department. But it's easy when there is a department called customer success or customer success management or something along those lines to be able to say, that's their problem. So everybody else in the company can do whatever they want to do because we'll just clean up the mess. Right? Bad product, bad fit customers, doesn't matter. That's not how it works, and we need to work against that. Customer success management is just another name for support. Come on, obviously we know that's not true. But do the people that we work with, do the people outside of this little echo chamber that we have here, did they know that? And if they don't, why don't they know that? And that's what I want you guys to take away from this. How can you work to make sure that everybody in your sphere of influence knows what real customer success is? Customer success can magically make bad fit customers successful. In Paris, I had somebody say to me, their salespeople, because there's a customer success management organization, believe they can sell anything to anybody, and CSMs will just pick it up and make it magically work, as if it's customer success magician instead of customer success manager. Well, we know that's not true. We know that's not true, and if this is happening, we got to stop it. Customer success is a fix for a broken or incomplete product. Yeah, sure. Sometimes it has to be, but if that's an excuse to not fix or not complete the product, that's an issue. But also, really what this gets to the heart of is this idea that somehow there are no other interactions with the customer outside of the product or outside of their consumption of our service. That doesn't make any sense. We know that's not true. So even if it is a fix for a broken or incomplete product, there's more to life than just the product. It's very obviously a product-centric view. You may have vendors today telling you that customer success is product-centric. By the way, your bullshit meters should be set to high, especially today. So, okay, we need to reposition everything. How do we do that? Well, one thing that would be nice is if we had a definition of customer success that we all agreed on. But I really don't care if you agree with me, but this is my definition, so at least you know where I'm coming from. Customer success is when the customer achieves their desired outcome through their interactions with your company. Now, there's a whole lot going on in this definition, and here we have a room full of very smart people here who are going to absolutely want to overthink this. That's what happens when smart people see things like this. They want to overthink it. But please don't. The concept is very simple. Now, what's going on in here? There's some stuff we'll talk about. And then, of course, the implementation. Very, very difficult. I'm not going to lie. And sometimes we overthink this because we've been there, done that. We know the implementation of this is tough, so we look at the definition and we know all of the baggage that comes along with it. But just the definition is very simple, and I want you to note even more what's not in here. It says nothing about any particular business, operating, revenue, or any other kind of model. It says nothing about any particular technology. This is a definition that applies to any business with customers, whether it's subscription, SaaS, technology, non-tech, some sort of, the coffee shop that's just totally transactional. This is what I want you to start talking about customer success like. Whenever you talk to anybody, whenever you have any interactions in customer success or not, this is the version of customer success that I want you to have in your mind. When you talk to the rest of your company, when we say customer success should be in the DNA of the company, this is what we're talking about. And when I say we, I'm talking about me. This is what I'm talking about when I say the DNA of your company should be customer success. This is it. This is the operating philosophy that your company should work with. All of your decisions should be made against this. If it is not going to help the customer achieve their desired outcome, why are we doing it? And interactions, instead of like through the use of your product, should be clear based on what I've just said. It's not just through the use of your product or through the consumption of your service. It's through all of the interactions, starting with sales and marketing, going through the prospect becoming a customer, through onboarding, and through the 3, 5, 7, 10 years a customer is going to be with us if we do our job right. There's a lot of interactions. Like I said, this is the operating philosophy. Now, I separate that from the operating model, which is customer success management. So customer success, more of a philosophy. Customer success management is simply the process of moving the customer toward their ever-evolving desired outcome. Now, I want you to note what's missing in here. Again, any notion of any particular type of coverage, the idea of that tiered touch level pyramid bullshit doesn't apply here. It's just what does it take to get the customer to their desired outcome, and then knowing that their desired outcome is going to evolve as they do, what does it take to keep them evolving? I don't care if it's fully built into your product, if it's 100% human-powered, or maybe a combination of all of that. And by the way, for your different customer segments, it's going to be a different combination of those things, most likely. So, we know what customer success is, we know what customer success management is, and we know that customer success gets results when done right. We know that customer success done right, even if your initial catalyst was because you have a lot of churn, so you seek this thing out, churn becomes a non-issue. We solve for the customer's desired outcome, churn becomes a non-issue. But if we solve churn, and I'm not saying churn's going to be zero, I'm just saying it's a non-issue. It's something once we get to this point, it doesn't really matter anymore. But once that happens, are we done? I don't think so. Now we can get into growth mode. And this is where we're adding real value to the company. Customers will extend their lifetime with us. Customers simply stay longer. That's awesome. While they're staying longer, they'll buy more. That's even more awesome. And while they're buying more, they'll actually go out and spread the good word for us. And all of that makes our jobs better, more secure, of course. But as a company, it makes our growth much more efficient. Pretty cool. Customer success directly impacts some of the core KPIs of your company. So why am I telling you this? Why does this matter? It matters because I want you to understand what you are actually bringing to the company that you work for. And if your company doesn't get that, I want you to be educating the market so you'll have other companies who understand that to go work for. So we have to understand what we're doing. We have to understand that. We have to have other people understand what we're doing. We have to have everybody else understand the value that we bring. So customer success directly impacts the customer lifetime value. Customer lifetime value, well, it's the value of the customer basically across their lifetime. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you can Google it, get more details. Essentially, if a customer stays longer, their lifetime value goes up. Pretty cool. And if they buy more while they're staying longer, their customer lifetime value might go up exponentially. Even cooler. Now, customer acquisition cost, that's another metric that we look at. So how does customer success affect that? Well, if I can get a customer to actually buy more earlier, the spend that I put out there in order to acquire a customer, maybe that gets paid back sooner. You could say the efficiency of that spend goes up. One of the things, the misconception when it comes to acquiring customers is we want to spend as little as possible. But here's the secret. That's not always true. Sometimes we want to spend more. We want to outspend our competitors. But what we want is to make sure we get paid back quickly. Well, customer success drives the speed with which we can reacquire or get back the cost of that customer acquisition. Net revenue retention. This is a kind of a key metric when it comes to SaaS companies especially. Essentially, we start the month with $1,000 in recurring revenue, and we end, based on those same customers, we end the month with $1,500 in recurring revenue. We would say that we had 150% net revenue retention. It's net of any churn, so any customers that left and took their revenue with them, or any customers that stayed but paid us less for the privilege. We gave them discounts, we saved them, whatever. Maybe there were some downsells. And then, of course, net of any expansion. Some customers bought more. It's a nice one. We directly impact that metric. Total addressable market. If you're churning and burning customers, your total addressable market is shrinking. Not just by the number of customers that came and went, but by some unquantifiable number of customers that will no longer do business with you because of the negative market sentiment out there. Now, here's the fun thing. If we're making our customers successful, they may open us up to new markets we never even thought about. But if we're churning and burning them, our total addressable market is shrinking, which means these metrics, LTV, CAC, NRR, total addressable market, those are just some of the inputs into the multiplier that investors or acquirers will apply to your revenue to come up with the value of your company. So right there you have 4 metrics that are common in that multiplier. We don't know exactly what's in that multiplier. Investors won't tell us that. If investors told us that, we could game the system. Our company would be worth more. They'd have to pay more for the equity they want to acquire from that deal. But we can make some educated guesses and say that those 4 key metrics are literally driving the value of your company. These 4 key metrics, along with others, are directly impacted by what you do in customer success management. So the next time somebody says to you that this sounds kind of fluffy, tell them to fuck off, and then show them, once they're past the shock, and show them, no, we're actually contributing directly to the value of this company, and you need to take us seriously. Now, there's obviously some cultural things that need to shift from transactional to just life cycle thinking, even if we are a transactional business, all the way down to from upselling, just trying to blast our customer list with whatever whatever we can try to get them to buy, to really success-based expansion and others. But you don't get a cultural shift without some sort of real reason to make that happen. And just making customers happy, just being, kind of having this fluffy idea of delight doesn't usually result in any meaningful cultural shift in the company. Now, from a leadership standpoint, which I assume a lot of you are in a leadership role, a lot of this is on you. You need to be a leader in your company. You need to be a leader in the community. We need to make sure that when we leave here today, we know that this is just the beginning of a lot of hard work that has to happen. Now, leadership, we know this. Strategic planning, tactical execution, resource management, these are things that leaders do. Cool. Effective communication, well, that makes sense. But when it comes to customer success, you have to make sure that you continue to communicate to the rest of the company the value that you bring. If you think, oh, here's first time we generated more revenue from our existing customers than we brought in from new customers, and you think for a second that your CEO wouldn't want to see that, you're wrong. Your CEO wants to see that, needs to see that. Your leadership needs to see that, needs to know the value that we're bringing. I would accidentally copy everyone in the company and then ask for forgiveness, because I want everybody to know what we're doing, what the value is. Evangelism and inspiration. Inspiration, that's just being a leader. Incentives are not leadership. Actually being a human being, understanding the humans that work for us and figuring out what drives them, that's leadership. But the evangelism piece, That's going back to that communication. You have to keep driving this concept of what real customer success is across the entire company. And you do that until it is in our DNA. If you ever stop doing that before you hit that tipping point, all of the status quo that's pushing against us is just going to take over. And you say, well, gosh, this sounds like a lot of work. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you. I'm not here to make less work for you. But if you want this to work, you need to take this on. And if you don't want it to work, I'm not sure why you're here, right? You're spending your day here. I think you want this to work. So we have to figure out how to put in the effort that makes this work. Finally, positioning everyone for success. We need to make sure that we're positioning our team for success, positioning the company for success. What does that mean? Well, obviously having the right goals and objectives. We need to make sure that we're aligned with executive leadership. I always hear, how do I know if we're successful in customer success management? Well, I don't know. How do your leaders view your success? Well, I don't know. Have you talked to them? And they say, well, they don't know. All right, this is not an opportunity to just to ignore that conversation. This is an opportunity to educate them. You need to push your leaders to hold you accountable, because I'll tell you what, if that's not in place, if you're not aligned with your leadership and the strategic goals of the company, it's going to be very simple for them to say customer success doesn't work and to just rip it out. This is either a serious business function or it's not. The choice is yours. I treat this as a very serious business function. I look at this as more important than a lot of other things that are treated very, very seriously. We have the ability to literally impact in a very big way the value of the company that we're working for. If we're not looking at it that way, then I'm not sure what you're doing. This last point, I want you to pay really close attention to this. Not necessarily the point, it's very simple, again, but the idea behind it. If sales, I hear this all the time, sales won't stop closing bad fit customers, then you just stay in their face until they stop that, because they are setting everybody up for failure. By the way, they're setting themselves up for failure too. Or at least they're making it harder on themselves. And that's a way to get them on your side. They're working harder for less money if they're closing bad fit customers. That's just the way it is. It takes longer to close bad fit customers. They usually convert paying less. You know, they're not willing to invest as much initially. But aside from just helping sales make more money faster, which is probably how you should start with this, get them on your side. If they are closing bad fit customers, if marketing is filling their basically their sales funnel with bad fit customers, if product is not doing things to fix issues that are causing our customers to not be successful, and you're just letting that happen, what kind of a leader are you? Not much of one, if you want the answer. We have to push back on people inside the company, organizations that are making our jobs harder, making your team fail, because bad fit customers that do not have success potential, will never be successful no matter how much effort, time, energy, resources we put into it. So you have to be willing to really push back on that. So customer success, I'm going to talk to you about a couple key points here. Try to bring the mood up a little bit. I'm not trying to yell at you, but I'm trying to be real. Because this isn't about, the problem with most customer success events is that they're just this rah, like, look at us, we're so great. And at the end of the day, you might leave happy, but you've literally learned nothing. That's why I don't speak at customer success events anymore, and this might be my last one. Because that's usually what they are. They're run by vendors, run by sponsors. Sponsors try to shape the narrative to fit their software. Fuck that. Yeah, I didn't get paid to be here. I don't care. I'm here for you guys. And if some of you are the sponsors, thank you for supporting this event, but no, that's cool. But I also don't really care what you think. I want you guys to be successful. And so again, if that makes you uncomfortable, too bad. Customer success is the growth engine. That's how we need to be looking at this. So I talk about customer success-driven growth. I don't just talk about customer success-driven growth as a way to differentiate my customer success from everybody else, although I think it helps a little bit. It's good to have a little bit of branding. If somebody completely steals that, most people will recognize that as being Lincoln's, even if they take the concepts and don't give credit. But customer success-driven growth is this, and I want you to pay close attention to this, because this is not going to be me yelling at you. This is a positive thing, okay? Well, everything here I've been saying is positive, ultimately, but there should be no emotion attached to this. As customers succeed and evolve, think about this, customer success-driven growth. As our customers succeed and evolve, their relationship with us should evolve and grow as well. So simple. But this is not how we think about customers when we think about customer success, generally. We usually, I don't know what we think about. Again, all those things. Just keeping customers, just retention. Oh man, what do we sell our customers on initially? You guys have probably seen that Super Mario, or it's like the Super Mario meme, where it's like a little Mario, and then he like eats a mushroom. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it works in Super Mario Brothers, but it's a little Mario. He eats a mushroom, and then he becomes a Super Mario, right? And it's basically saying that if you do business with us, you start here, we deliver on the promise that we gave you. That's the mushroom. You become a better version of yourself, right? That's what we sell our customers. It's customer success that drives that customer success management that makes sure that happens. That's what we sell our customers on initially. What if we deliver on that? What if we take a client that we have to support, we have to help just lift a little bit, and we make them strong? Everything I've said to this point is just to build to this slide, because he's lifting 2 giant balls, and I love that. But what happens when we get to this point? Are we done? Can we no longer help this guy? No. He's changed. He's evolved. But he can get stronger. He can become more efficient. I hear all the time, Lincoln, my customer churned out after their contract was up, after a year. I don't get it. Nothing changed. They seem successful. I don't understand. Yeah, nothing changed with you. The customer changed. The customer evolved. And you didn't understand that. You didn't take into consideration what happens if we actually deliver on the promise we made in the sales cycle. What if you actually deliver on that? We have to be prepared. So remember, customer success management is the process of getting your customer towards that ever-evolving desired outcome. If the customer is successful, they will change, they will evolve. And we have to be aware of that. We have to be prepared. The other thing, so just all within that, this is another point that I want you to pay close attention to. And that is, expansion and renewal are just part of the customer's journey towards success. Which means we have to stop looking at these two things, renewal and expansion, as extra. When we treat them as something extra, that's when we say, well, we have to kick that back to sales to handle. Or we have to come up with some crazy comp plan to incentivize our CSMs to simply do what is just part of the customer's journey towards success. Or our CSMs shouldn't handle renewal or expansion because that might hurt trust. How can that hurt trust when this is just part of their journey towards success. We have to get out of this mindset that this is not a commercial function. We have to understand that lack of expansion is a bad sign. The customer is simply, even if they're renewing, if they're just renewing at the same level, that's an indication, assuming there's a logical expansion opportunity, assuming you have something more to give them, assuming this makes sense. But if you are in a position to actually sell more to them and they're in a position to expand, a lack of expansion is a bad sign. It means that they're not willing to invest more with you. So the idea that CSMs shouldn't be commercial doesn't make sense. By the way, who's under the impression that the vendor-client relationship isn't commercial anyway? If it's a joke, everybody's in on it. We know that this is a commercial relationship. So avoiding being commercial to somehow build trust doesn't make sense. The idea that selling something to customers somehow hurts trust means you don't understand what actually selling for their success means. It means that you've been hurt somehow in the past, and I'm sorry that you went through being sold something that you didn't need, and that did cause you to not trust whoever was trying to do that. By the way, that is how you hurt trust. Try to sell something to someone when they don't need it, sell the wrong thing. Just try to sell something to hit your numbers. That is how you hurt trust, absolutely. But if we understand that the customer's journey towards success may have to include them buying more from us, then how in the world is selling them something more? How is that going to hurt trust? That doesn't make sense. So we need to get out of this mindset, because that mindset that we shouldn't be commercial now affects the way that we are positioned with the rest of the company. And it fuels that us versus them mentality with sales and with marketing. We have to get away from that. And once we get away from that, sales and marketing will start to listen to you. One of the ways they'll listen to you is by acquiring customers with success potential. Because that's where this all starts. You can't solve upstream problems downstream. I cannot take a customer without success potential and somehow magically make them successful. But just because you acquire a customer with success potential doesn't mean that's enough. If that was enough, we would simply define success potential, go get more customers that have that, and be good to go. But it's just success potential. We have to unlock that potential. And that's what customer success management does. And that's what having customer success as our operating philosophy does. It's not success guaranteed. Now, what I want to end with is this around desired outcome. How much time do I have? I just want to be sure, because we're coming up from the schedule. Okay, about 5 minutes. So we were going to do a Q&A, by the way, but I think they had to fit a sponsor in to speak, so we don't get to do a Q&A. Desired outcome. By the way, if you don't want that to be the case, spread the word, so next time more people will come and pay the bills, and we don't need vendors on stage talking at you. Evangelize. Desired outcome. The key part of the definition of customer success. Customer success is when customers achieve their desired outcome through their interactions with your company. I've already said that 7 times. Why? It's super important that you understand this. It's super important that you internalize it, and this is what you build everything that you do, all of your communication off of. But what is desired outcome? Again, very smart audience, very smart crowd, very smart group of professionals. And that guy? You're going to want to overthink this. Don't. It's a very simple concept, guys. Now, implementation, different story. Required outcome plus appropriate experience. That is desired outcome. Required outcome is basically what? It's the business outcome. It's the goal that the customer has. It's what they need to achieve. Okay? It's what most companies are really good at solving for. Although I will tell you, The companies even that seem really good at solving for it, they don't even know what it takes for the customer to actually be successful. What does the customer have to do on their end, outside of the product? What do they have to do in the product? What do we have to do for them? And by the way, if you don't even know those things, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not doing customer success. If you don't know those things and you aren't operationalizing around that, even if it's just a human being working with the customer, if you don't all know inside your company what those things are, you cannot be doing customer success management. But I would say, because of my definitions, that if you don't know what the appropriate experience is for your customers as well, not just what they need to achieve, but how they need to achieve that, then you're not doing customer success management. Because customers need to achieve their goals in a certain way. And that certain way ultimately becomes how we operationalize. It becomes our coverage levels. So if you are operationalizing, designing a customer success management organization and you don't know this, seriously, how are you coming up with what you should be giving your customer in terms of interactions? Probably you're giving them what you think you should be giving them. Rather, you're just giving them what you can give them. You're giving them what you copied from somebody else. You're giving them what you can afford to give them. I get that. It's reality. But that's the reason for a lot of churn or just not a lot of expansion is that we're not giving them their appropriate experience. We're giving them something, but we're not giving them an appropriate experience. Go a little bit deeper on this for a couple more minutes. Desired outcome. So let's assume we have a couple of different types of customers that both share the same required outcome. Let's say we need to get more people to the event. I have a list of email addresses. The method I choose is email marketing. But let's say the customer segment, startups. What are some of the characteristics of startups? Tech forward, do it yourself, not a lot of money, don't want to talk to anybody, that kind of thing. Based on that, what would their appropriate experience be? I don't know, just an API, a Slack channel for support, some lightweight documentation, maybe a credit card form to pay. That's it. What if I have a customer segment that's a business user in a Fortune 500 company? Their required outcome is to get more people to their event. They have a list of email addresses. The method they choose is email marketing. But what are their characteristics? I don't know. They have a lot of money. Just needs to work. They like relationships. So what would the appropriate experience be? Graphical interface, maybe 24/7 phone support. Maybe they need a higher touch sales process with a longer term contract. They need a real robust help system or knowledge base. Now, what would happen if I tried to normalize an experience across both of those types of customers? It should be obvious that if I tried to normalize, something's going to fall flat. Something's not going to quite work. We might have that Venn diagram of some customers where right in the middle that it seems to work for. But if we try to normalize an experience across all customers, we're going to fail. We're going to fail, not us necessarily, but the customer, which will lead, if not to our failure, to our lack of thriving. And then what if I tried to just take that startup experience and shove it onto that Fortune 500 company? Non-starter. Flip it around, same thing. It's not going to work. Experience is not going to be appropriate for the startups. But a lot of times that's what we do. The worst companies to work with in this stuff are the companies that are doing okay. You see, companies that are failing, that have a lot of issues, some of those companies certainly are going to try harder. And the companies that are thriving, they're like, oh, I got a taste of the good stuff. I want more. But it's those companies that are just doing fine. They're the ones that are the hardest to break the habits that are keeping them just fine. And I don't want you to be working in companies that are doing just fine. I want you to be working in companies that are absolutely thriving. And to do that, we have to reposition customer success. We have to position it as a growth engine. Whether you use my definitions or not, whether you buy into everything I'm saying or not, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want what you do to be looked at as a real business function that drives value, you have to get away from those fluffy things that don't mean anything, and get away from customer happiness, and get away from just the raw stuff, and really drive value for your customers, and ultimately drive value for your company. So thank you so much. I'm out of here.
Thanks, Lincoln.